E3 has been cancelled for the second year in a row, and this time the blow seems fatal. What was once a worldwide industry showcase slowly became a rotting corpse that just a few studios were dragging along. This year was kicked off by the news that Xbox, PlayStation and Nintendo were all dropping out of the show, immediately casting doubt on whether it could survive without them. Then in the past week, the final cards were dealt when Ubisoft, Sega and Tencent all withdrew, leaving E3 just to become this lonely ball pit in the middle of a convention hall. So although it may not be surprising that E3 is cancelled, doesn't make it any less sad. E3 to me was a storybook. It was the city of far, far away in Shrek. This magical world where the games of my dreams got announced, people played games early, and you're surrounded by thousands of people who all think the same. There was nothing more magical than sitting down to watch an E3 press conference with your mates, so excited to see what games you were actually going to get your hands on in the next few years. Now, don't get me wrong, conferences haven't gone anywhere, and they still have hype around them. But just a few years back, E3 was the only event we get like this every single year. It was an event. And for 3 to 5 days every year, I'd be sat hunched over my computer like the little goblin child that I was, taking in every interview, gameplay demo, showcase. And I suppose E3 was the birth of the showcase. It brought some of the funniest, most awkward gaming moments in gaming history. From the yearly Ubisoft dance parties to Reggie gifting us with the phrase, "My body is ready." You never knew what to expect with a showcase. Keanu Reeves might pop out and announce he's in a game. You might get a strangely intense Wii music presentation. But you might get a glimpse of how important E3 was to developers. As much as this is about my feelings on E3, E3 was the place where developers got a chance to shine. From big to small, it was their once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to impress the big dogs of the press. And while I can't speak to what E3 meant for developers, it's clear from the countless crying interviews that it probably meant as much to them as it does to me right now. One of the main reasons that I'm sat making videos just like this today is because I wanted to become a games journalist and finally go to E3. That was my goal, finally take part in the thing that made me fall in love with games journalism to begin with. And in all honesty, it's taking everything in me right now not to burst out crying because it feels like that might not ever happen now. Of course, events will take its place. Summer Games Fest, Game Awards, Gamescom and many more, but none of them are her. None of them are E3. I wanted nothing more than to be in an E3 war room planning out what interviews I'd take on next. As a kid, it felt impossible that I would get there. Now me, sat here, years later, it's the closest I've ever been to being able to actually attend E3. Now it's gone forever. Of course, the version of E3 in my head is significantly more glamorous than the one that actually happened, but it doesn't make it any less special. Nothing else in this industry put the world at a standstill like E3. It broke into the mainstream news. It had people at my school who didn't even care about games talking. Even my parents watched E3. It almost felt like the validation I needed to prove that I'm a real games journalist, a badge of honour in this metaphorical war. And I'm sure there's countless of other people in this position too, sad that they'll never get to experience the show of their dreams. So I want to give E3 the memorial send-off that it deserves by showing you my favourite E3 moment of all time. It's a moment that I don't think I have ever been more hyped for, ever. It's a moment that perfectly sums up the cringe, the awkwardness, and the hype all in one. For me, this is what E3 was all about. E3 is dead. Long live E3.
Thanks guys, that was amazing. Thanks so much. I'd say I was speechless, but I have one more thing to announce. Coming this year, Peggle 2!